so we are going to go on the record in the matter of Nicole Petnato, 231208. And counsel, your appearance, please.
Good morning, Your Honor. Attorney Corey Westmoreland, appearing on behalf of Ms. Petnato. Ms. Petnato, would you please state your full name for the record? You need to unmute yourself.
All right, Nicole Petnato.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Petnato, you are on probation for possession of controlled substance use, which is amended from a possession charge, which is a felony, and also driving a license suspended. And correct. It's alleged you tested positive for alcohol and marijuana on September 4th, and you failed to appear for drug testing on September 16th. And counsel, what's happening today?
Yes, Your Honor. At this, I did have an opportunity to speak to Ms. Petnato. The allegations. At this time, we are prepared to waive our right to have any sort of contested hearing and enter a guilty plea.
All right. Ma'am, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear from the testimony about to give this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you. And excuse me, ma'am, you heard the plea that your attorney placed on the record, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And excuse me, as to the allegations, ma'am, how do you plead?
Guilty.
And you found over your advice of rights for probation violation purposes, correct?
Correct.
And you understand all of those rights?
Yes.
And you also understand that by entering into a plea, you'll be waiving some of those rights, specifically your right to a contested hearing.
Correct.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Okay. And excuse me, you also understand the possible penalty as a result of your plea, whether in this court, any other court, or if you're on any other probation, and that the recommendation this court specifically is for you to continue and complete all terms of probation, pay a $50 probation violation fee, 30 days on the alcohol tether after 10 days jail, and continue your testing. Do you understand that's the recommendation?
Yes.
And knowing all that, do you still want to continue with your plea?
Yes.
Has anybody promised you anything, threatened you, or coerced you in any way for you to enter into a plea?
No.
All right, counsel, if you can please go to your client.
Sure. Ms. Petnato, are you currently on probation through the Wyandotte District Court?
Yes.
Was that yes, Ms. Petnato?
Yes.
As a term and condition of your probation, are you to not test positive for any drugs or alcohol?
Yes.
Did you in fact test positive for alcohol on September 4th of this year?
I did.
And you understand that that's a direct violation of your probation?
I do.
Okay. Did you additionally fail to submit to a drug test as ordered on September 16th of this year?
Yes.
And you understand that that's a direct violation of your probation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Satisfied.
All right, the court is also satisfied that the plea is knowing, voluntary, and factually accurate. The court does find the probation violation is found based upon your client's plea of guilty, and that would be technical violations 1 and 2. And counsel, as to the recommendation.
Yes, Your Honor. I would simply just be asking for leniency on behalf of Ms. Petnato. This is her first violation. She's extremely apologetic after speaking with her at length. She does understand the importance of not only her sobriety, but to make sure that she attends every single test. She hasn't had any violations since. She's made every test since then with no positive results. I would like you to know that she is gainfully employed full-time. She's gotten back on track. Moving forward, Judge, I truly don't believe this is going to be an issue again. So I would just respectfully request consideration to suspend the jail time and set this for a jail.
Ma'am?
Yes.
one of the conditions of your probation was mandatory jail for any violation. Your matter was reduced from a felony down to a misdemeanor. And yet here we are, 2 violations within the first month of being on probation. One of those violations came a week after you were sentenced, and the other one came about a week and a half after that. So why didn't you show up for your drug test on September 16th?
I did show up, but the facility was closed. I got caught by a train and I just missed the cutoff time of them closing. But I did show up to that one. The prior one to where I tested positive for alcohol, I was at a wedding prior to that, and I have just, it slipped my mind about the bond violation, and I had like 3 margaritas.
And you were just placed on probation. How did that slip your mind?
No, it was prior to being put on probation.
It was the weekend before she was sentenced, but she was on bond. I did explain that to her. She understands it. She's not trying to make excuses by any means.
I'm explaining.
She was confused as to the difference between bond and probation.
I've never been on probation or anything before, and I've never had any drug charges, so this is all new to me.
Well, maybe perhaps one of the reasons you haven't been on probation before is because there are 6 warrants out for your arrest, ma'am, that you have failed to show up to court on to properly adjudicate your matter.
Well, I don't drive, and I'm not giving excuses, but those are, 4 hours away, and I don't live up there anymore. But I understand.
Ma'am, it doesn't mean you don't need to take care of those.
I completely understand.
There's a felony for illegal use of credit card. There's a misdemeanor. Okay, so that felony is out of Manistee. There's a misdemeanor out of Ludington. It's a traffic offense.
Right, I understand, and I know what they are.
Another matter out of Manistee for insufficient funds, check fraud.
Correct, I understand that, ma'am. And like I said, I've never had any drug charges in my life. This is all new to me. I'm learning as I go. It's a learning process for me. I am sincerely apologetic for this, but I'm learning. I have been in a Suboxone clinic for a year. I'm learning.
There's also another one out of Manistee from 2022 regarding failure to appear for a show cause. So there was a bench warrant issued. And there's also one out of Lincoln Park.
For Lincoln Park?
Yes, ma'am, for misdemeanor obstructing a criminal investigation.
I have no idea about that one.
It's from 2020, January of 2020.
I have no idea.
So it may be something from the end of 2019.
Yeah, I have no idea. I paid my fines and all that for that. It was a traffic violation.
Ma'am, obstructing a criminal investigation, not a traffic.
Okay, I don't know what that one is. I've never heard of anything. I've never gotten a piece of mail about it or anything.
Okay, well, ma'am, I just informed you as to where all those warrants are.
I will find out. Yes, I will find out.
All right. Well, the court's going to state the following. This court's order at the date of your sentencing was mandatory jail for any violation. And we have 2. And so the court is going to state that it's going to adopt the recommendation to continue and complete all terms of probation, $50 probation violation fee, 10 days jail, continue your testing, and 30 days on the alcohol tether after your release. And ma'am, just for the record, when was the wedding that you stated you attended?
It was that Saturday before I got sentenced. I don't have my calendar.
So that would have been August 26th.
Correct.
Because you were sentenced on August 30th.
Correct.
Okay. I am guaranteeing you, ma'am, that you're not being honest with this court, because it would not have still shown up in your system on September 4th test.
I don't drink, ma'am. That was the only time I drank. And that's I just told the council. I was drug tested for 3 days after that one on the 4th from my doctor, and none of that was in my system. I don't drink. I don't understand this.
And ma'am, do you work?
I work full time. I have pets at home. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have nobody here to take care of anything.
Excuse me. What are your hours?
I'm sorry?
What hours do you work?
They vary. I'm a waitress.
Okay. So on the 16th, when you didn't show up for your testing, right? If you're waiting until you didn't show up on time.
Correct. I got caught by a train.
Okay. So then you should go in the morning so that you don't have that issue any further.
I did. That's the only time you can go on the weekends. It's in the morning. And that's when I went, and I missed the cutoff time because of the train.
Okay. Ma'am, knowing that there's that opportunity for delay because of the train, then you need to plan accordingly.
I did, ma'am.
Okay, so ma'am, I will give you until tomorrow to report. You can make arrangements for your pets.
And what about my job? What do? I work all week. I'm going to lose my job.
I will give you until Friday to report. That ma'am, you had adequate warning as to what the consequences were if you violated probation. That was part of your probation order. You're to report Friday, October 6th.
I work through the weekend. Can you do it till Monday?
No, ma'am, I'm giving you consideration.
I understand. Right. But I work Saturday and Sunday. I have rent to pay.
Somebody else covered. Friday is when you have to report. Email into Ms. Shaw and she will get you that information. Anything else, counsel?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
All right, ma'am. Just so you're aware, so there isn't any confusion, there's you'll also have 30 days on the alcohol tether upon your release. All right, email into Ms. Shaw by 9:40. Ms. Petnato?
I heard you.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you did. I didn't hear a response.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Judge.
I have Crystal Haynes right here.
All right.
With me.
We are on the record in, do we have Mr. Patterson? Yes, we do. We're on the record in 2021 CR 433, State of Kansas versus Crystal Dawn Haynes. Please announce appearances.
Your Honor, Brett Sweeney on behalf of the state.
Your Honor, Darren Patterson appearing on behalf of Crystal Haynes. Ms. Haynes has appeared at the courthouse, Sallyport. Your Honor, this is a case where we had her in court last week for a probation violation. She did stipulate, the court accepted her stipulation and found violation. There was an agreement by the parties to reinstate her for 1 year, give her sanction time for the time that she had been in jail. I think the court was ready to proceed with that until the court started having some questions about her plan for probation. The statements previously were that she was homeless, living in that Douglas area, and it made it difficult for her to report. She has now come up with a plan. Your Honor, her plan would be that she is going to live with her sister, Terry Jo Haynes, that is in Augusta, Kansas, that her sister is a stay-at-home mother and will help her with transportation issues, including transportation to see probation if and when they want to see her in person versus just see her by phone or call in. That will also afford her a local place to find employment. She has plans to have employment in the city of Augusta so that it's within reach of walking to versus any other method to get there, so she doesn't have to rely on people for day-to-day purposes of getting to work. That will allow her then to start paying on her case also. So that would be her plan, Judge. We would just ask court to adopt the previous recommendation of the credit for sanction time and reinstate for 1 year for probation.
Is this the same Terry Haynes that is familiar to the court? She's been here many times, Mr. Smith, Brian Smith, probation officer.
Yes, Your Honor, I believe that it is.
Mr. Smith, are you comfortable with these two living together with Ms. Haynes' history?
Your Honor, I'm not familiar with where Ms. Haynes is at currently, as far as being in trouble with the police or on probation. I would have to do further investigation to answer that question, Your Honor.
She's actually doing really, really well. She's been clean and sober for 3 years. She's has what? Clean and sober for 3 years. And honestly, I mean, not to be rude, but I'm not relying on her. That's just, I'm going to take care of me and myself. And whatever she does with her life does not and will not affect me. This has been a humbling, very humbling experience for me. And I know right from wrong, and I know what I need to do for myself. So please don't judge her for her life and what she's been through, because that has nothing to do with me.
Remind me who the victim of this trespass was. Mr. Sweeney, do you have that?
Second, Your Honor, this is originally a Miss Norris case. So let me go through and see if I can find that out. Looks like
go ahead.
Go ahead, Darren. Looks like Iris Washington, Worthington.
Iris Pearl Worthington.
What's your relationship, if any, to Miss Worthington, Miss Haynes?
Miss Worthington, I have no clue who that is.
So you don't even know whose property you were trespassing on?
No, I don't. Because I wasn't never been there to be trespassing. That was, like I said, not one of my best moments. I actually was being chased down by a car and I walked through her yard. So,
Mr. Smith, do you think maybe we ought to give you some time to research her? She really doesn't have a plan. She just says, I'm going to move in with Terry and then I'm going to figure it out.
Are you serious?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm covering this case for Christine. She may be more familiar with the specific
no, just give me in here
case, but
okay, Ms. Haynes, please stop talking. Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
I would have to do some further investigation to determine the specifics, but yes, Your Honor, we generally do not like our clients, hanging around places that might be unsuitable. I'm not saying that's the case here, but we want to make sure that they are a good, suitable location that she can be successful in.
All right. If I put you to work on that today and set this over for whenever I can get it in again, maybe you can give me more information, Mr. Smith. Would that be okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So, Savannah, when's the next time you can fit this in for review again of her probation plan?
Can I have a bond, please?
Your probation's been revoked, Ms. Haynes.
So I'm assuming you want it soon since she's in jail.
Right. Although, if she's going to give me some attitude, I'm not sure she's going to be workable on probation, but I'll let Mr. Patterson work with that. Go ahead. Yeah. When you can fit her in.
I guess we can do October 16th because the court is closed on October 9th. So okay. October 16th would be the next date. We already have 40 on there, so it'll take us to 41, but.
Okay. All right. So October 16th at 9 a.m.
And Judge, may I make just a brief argument?
Sure. Go ahead.
Judge, the previous plan that she had was all she had was to go to a homeless shelter. The court, it wasn't really favorable to that because that did not really give her much of a chance, in the court's opinion, to be successful in probation. She is indigent. She has currently no money, no job. Family is her next best option. So to exclude her family, I'm not sure where that puts her, but back at the homeless shelter. And then we're keeping an indigent person in jail because they don't have a place to live and go to and be on probation. So I'm concerned that she has a plan it's up to her to make it work. But we're at this point saying that don't use that one. I guess we go back to square A, the homeless shelter.
All right. So are you implying that her probation was revoked because she didn't have any money?
She was yes, Judge. She was homeless, living in Douglas. She could not, because of that, it was really prohibitive for her to report, to drive to, she couldn't drive, she didn't have a car. Okay, so to get El Dorado was a problem.
All right. So she didn't report to her probation either. And,
yes.
And you're suggesting that her probation should not be revoked because she failed to report?
That's what the findings were. She stipulated to those violations: failure to pay, failure to report.
Even though she could have called. Okay, so do we need to have a new hearing on that? I mean,
no, Judge, I'm just saying that I'm not sure what the court wants as far as a plan. She's provided a new plan because the homeless shelter is not working. So an indigent person has very few choices, but to keep them in jail because they're indigent, that's where I'm just having concern, Judge.
Mr. Patterson, you could make that argument all day long that they didn't report because they were indigent. But if they don't report, then how can they ever be successful on probation? Money aside, we can take into consideration she didn't have money, but she didn't call, she didn't report, she didn't respond. So am I to just, is it your position that I should just dismiss the case maybe? Because her plan is to move in with a criminal who's appeared in front of this court numerous times, whose name is well familiar. And as you know, Mr. Patterson, you've been at this a long time. Usually if they have a criminal record and they move in with somebody with a criminal record, it goes downhill. Now, Miss Terry Haynes may have reformed, and I hope she has. Great for her if she has. But I think Mr. Smith, as a probation officer for the court, should be given time to check into that. I think you're telling me that I cannot make her serve her sentence?
Absolutely not, Judge. I would not tell the court that. I'm asking the court to take into consideration that she has very few options because of her indigency.
And I am. I'm very much wanting to take that into consideration. But if I turn her loose to a homeless shelter, I don't think she's going to be very successful. And if I turn her loose with someone who has more criminal problems than she has, I don't think she's going to be very successful. So I just want Mr. Smith to have a week or two to find that out. I mean, that's in lieu of just saying, serve your time.
Understood, Judge.
Mr. Sweeney, am I being unreasonable here?
No, Your Honor. I mean, I would agree that reporting is pretty fundamental to the success of probation. And I think, you know, the individuals that probationers live with or fraternize with is certainly something that comes within the purview of the courts. I will tell the court that according to Ms. Norris's notes, the state was going to recommend time served as a sanction. It doesn't say necessarily what that time served was, but I'll leave it at that, I guess.
Is Ms. Norris available? Because if the state's not recommending she serve any consequence for her violation, I'll certainly consider that.
Well, I certainly don't think that's the case, Your Honor. I mean, I think there's a contemplation of the time that she spent awaiting hearing on the warrant, whatever that time is, was contemplated as a sanction. So we certainly, I certainly don't want it to sound like the state's not recommending any punitive sanction here for her violations, because we are. But I just wanted to tell the court what the notes are in the file as reflected by Ms. Norris. And it's time served as a sanction. Now, whether that's time served as a sanction up until today or October 16th, I mean, obviously that's not necessarily contemplated. And I would agree it's within the purview of the court. If the court is not comfortable with the living situation, I think the court can extend the sanction. I think that's well within the court's discretion, if that's the question.
Mr. Sweeney, are you familiar with Terry Haynes?
The name sounds familiar, Your Honor, but as far as anything specific, no.
And Judge, I did look her up on Odyssey. Her last case was in 2019. That was a criminal damage to property, and that case was closed. So I'm not sure she has any open cases.
She's been in front of me since 2019. When was it closed?
April 21, 2021, probation was terminated.
In 21? Okay, that's been 2 years. And why has your client been indigent? In this day and age, it's pretty easy in this community to find jobs. People are begging for employment in every sector. Because Douglas doesn't really afford the opportunity. So that's why she's going to be in Augusta now. So she has better opportunities for that, even fast food. Well, she told me she was going to move to Douglas to live with her mother, but they didn't get along. Her mom lives in a Douglas, Judge. But was she living with her mother when she was in violation of probation? I thought she was. Off and on. She was homeless, but they didn't get along, so she would spend some time there. But again, I haven't heard why didn't she go to Augusta and get a job? I mean, people are begging for jobs, and I'll bet I could drive into Douglas right now and find signs. Walking to Douglas, Judge, or walking to Augusta from Douglas was just not practical. No, it's not practical, but I would venture to guess if you walked into Douglas right now, you could find even as small and limited as this, there's probably somebody looking for help. But I don't know. I'm not trying to be unreasonable. I'm not trying to pick on a woman for being indigent. But I just want to make sure she's going to be successful on probation. And if she doesn't have a good, suitable home to live in, then we're not giving her a chance. Now, if her sister, I believe she said, Terry Haynes has reformed and has not been in any trouble or substance abuse since at least 21, then that's great. And she might be able to help her. But I can't see the harm in letting Mr. Smith check it out and make suggestions. He could have made suggestions to her while she was on probation if she'd stayed in contact with him. Did she not have a cell phone during this time? I don't have that answer, Judge. I'm sorry. Well, can we just ask her if she had a cell phone? Ms. Haynes.
That wasn't my probation officer, for one. And no, I did not have a cell phone. I was, at the time, like I said, I wasn't taking this seriously. So your answer to that question is no, I did not.
All right. She wasn't taking it seriously.
At that time, I did not.
All right. What's the state's recommendation?
Your Honor, I think I've already told the court what Ms. Norris put in the file. I don't have any.
I know, but what is your recommendation on whether I turn her loose on probation today or let Mr. Smith check it out?
Your Honor, I think the court is well within its means to continue this case to make sure that the living situation is appropriate, and I guess the state would recommend that as well. If the court has that concern, I think that you're well positioned to continue the case, and so the state would recommend that as well.
And Mr. Patterson, your recommendation is plain, simple, in a sentence or two is?
Judge, I would just ask the court to recall last Monday, the court was pretty close to just letting her out to go to a homeless shelter, but hesitated. I think the court had in mind that the time she served was sufficient as a sanction, as the first probation violation in the case. So there was going to be another chance for her. The court wanted to have some assurance she had a chance to be successful. And that's what she has done by finding a place to live in a town where there's going to be fast food places that she can immediately get employment and work. So we're just asking for to consider 1 year reinstatement.
Today. But
Judge, it is your authority to keep her in there for another review hearing. If the court doesn't want to do it today, then we'd ask the court to set it for another review hearing.
All right. And Mr. Smith, I think I've heard you say that you'd like to check it out before you just took her on probation.
Your Honor, this is Christine Donovan's probation I am covering for her. I know that Christine Donovan has some reservations about her being on probation, which is why the probation revocation was filed in the first place. So I believe it is a good idea just to ensure that she has a good, stable place to stay where she could make or have closer contacts for employment. So I think that it's a good idea.
All right. This matter is continued to October 16th at 9 a.m. And if there's nothing further, we'll be in recess until then. You may go. I guess you already have. Okay, deputy, anyone else in jail?
My screen box.
Can you hear it? Can you hear it, ma'am? Ma'am, can you hear it?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I have no patience for that. And trust me, out of the day, I'm sitting up here, I'm the one that needs a drink.